Hey everyone, today we're going to paint these wet and to wet butterflies. We're using just 2 colors within each butterfly, and we're going to use the wet and to wet technique to drop in 2 different colors, one on the top, one on the bottom, and then we're going to let it dry and move on and try another one. This is a very fun, relaxing activity. It would be a great warm-up before starting another painting or another activity where you can use multiple mediums. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna get a separate sheet of paper. I'm gonna keep referencing this so you can see it, but I'm gonna paint on this little card because I might send it to somebody. You could start out by doing an outline of the butterflies. So maybe I'm gonna do that with a couple of these, and then I'll do some loose ones in just a minute. And the trick is, just make it as symmetrical as you can. But this is just for funsies, so you don't have to make it perfect. But I am going to do a couple of my favorites here. I like this, moth thingy. If you want some outlines for butterflies or anything like that, let me know in the comments below and I'll send you a link. Okay, that's a good start. Now all I'm gonna do, this is a size 6 brush, I have my watercolor paints, and I'm just gonna wet the surface and then I'll drop in my color. So it's a pretty straightforward process. I'm just gonna wet that area. A lot of construction happening on my street today, so if you're hearing a lot of beeping and construction noises, that's what's happening. All right, so I've wet the surface. You don't want it to dry while you get your new colors or the colors to add to your surface, so I'm kind of re-wetting anything that looks like it's already drying. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab one of my colors. I always start with my lighter color because sometimes I don't have to wash out my brush then, right? So especially if I'm using analogous colors, the colors that are close to each other on the color wheel, then it just makes it easier. So let's do that. I'm going to start out with my lighter color. I'm going to choose yellow and red, which are analogous colors. And I'll start with yellow first because it is the lighter of the two. So I'm going to do light at the bottom, just like I did before. Wash out my brush. And how about more cadmium? We used cadmium yellow, and now we're going to use cadmium red. And I'm going to paint the top half. Into itself. So that's one way to do it. If you have an outline with your pencil, you can draw it and then fill it in with the wet and to wet technique. Or what you can do is you can paint directly. So I'll show you how to do that. So like a little simple butterfly like this, where it's really just 2 triangles and 2 loops, then you can paint that one directly. You could do that with water first. I like to use a little bit of dirty water, so think about your colors that you're going to use. I'm going to do that with pink, this dirty pink color. And so I'm going to wet the surface first, draw that triangle, draw the other triangle, do my loops, kind of teardrop shapes. Now I'm going to use my lighter color, which is alizarin crimson, because I'm going to use alizarin crimson and blue for this one, just like I did before. I'm going to drop that in at the base, and then I'm going to wash my brush out, and I'm going to use ultramarine blue, and then you can kind of wiggle if it's not blending smoothly. And I like to keep wiggling, and I don't really lift my brush up until I know that's where I'm going to drop the paint. You see what happened right there? So this is where I drew it first, and then I did wet into wet, and then added my 2 different colors. This is where I did no drawing. I did direct painting with my water, and then, or not direct painting, but I used my water, then I dropped in my colors. Now I'm going to show you a third option, because I can be kind of a lazy painter. Even though I do this all the time, I still, sometimes I just, you know, maybe I don't want to draw it, or, you know, a warm-up should feel easy, I think, so I like to keep it that way. So this is a direct painting method where you draw the top section first, and then while it's wet, then you get a second color, and then you let them bleed together. This is a little bit trickier because you can't touch these 2 edges where they meet until the very end. So that's the trick. So I'm going to paint directly those top sections. And I'm going to drop in a little bit more paint so it doesn't dry on me, and you know, especially where those 2 areas are going to meet. There. Wash my brush out. I'm going to get a second color. Let's do orange. And you can tell this time I'm not really worried about using the lighter color first. You can do that and stick to it, or you don't have to. So when I'm doing the bottom layer, I'm going to just be a little shy of touching it. If you touch it, that's okay. It'll just bleed right away as soon as you touch that top edge. So I'm going to paint it a little bit lower, and then finally, after I've basically made the whole entire thing, I'm going to connect it. And if it's not doing its magic, then just wiggle that edge. So I use that method for almost all of the butterflies on this page. And you can see there's a lot more movement, and I just think it's more playful and simple. So let's do a few more of these while we listen to the beeping in the background. Okay, so here's the other thing too. While this is wet, I'm going to touch this up because I can't help myself. I want it to be darker. You can also add things like the body of your butterfly or antenna. So here I am again. I'm painting it. I'm trying to stop short of the actual orange part, and now I don't care because I've already made most of the shape that I was looking for. The reason why I'm stopping short too, so if you're wondering, well, why does it matter if they're just going to bleed into each other? You want some of it to maintain its color. So, you know, see right here, so this is very nice and purple, and then the orange is going to get taken over by that purple as soon as you add it. So in order to maintain some of that orange, that's why we stop short, and then at the very end, then we touch it, because the colors are just going to spread and move. So there you go. Let's do a green one. Oh, here's another tip too. So you can use just 2 colors and then do kind of a sandwich effect where you start in the middle. So sometimes I do this stuff and I don't think about it because I'm just playing and having fun. But this is another thing that I did, especially on some of these bugs. More, I don't know, it's not really a bug, it's not really a moth. Maybe, I don't know, some sort of strange creature. But anyways, so you're doing the exact same thing. See how I'm stopping short, and then I'll wiggle on that edge, and then it's done. It looks more tie-dye. Kind of striped. Gives it a cool look. Cute. Okay, so what you could do, you could keep going. You could add maybe little leaves. You could add lines that kind of like movement lines. Another thing that you could do too, get some markers out or gel pens, add that on top. Honestly, this is such a fun method and a nice warm-up. You don't even have to do it just with bugs. I'll try to add some more videos where I'm using other themes. So I hope you had a lot of fun with this, and definitely let me know if you try it. I'd love to see any of your work. So stick around for more videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.